Going to welcome in Kevin Minnick of the Courier-Post. Keep it going with the high school baseball conversation. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, Sully. How are you today?
Pretty good, man. How was vacation?
Vacation was very, very good. I had a real good time. Saw a lot of baseball and came back to this. So, you know.
Where'd you go, down to Florida?
Maybe we would. Yeah, I usually do a little spring training trip. I've done it, I guess, maybe the past 5 or 6 years now.
Nice.
with my father. And occasionally my sons will come along with us. None, not this year, but you know, we check out the Gulf Coast this year, and you know, got to see some decent games. You know, saw some Phillies games, and you know, get ourselves all excited for what the baseball season will unfold.
Was your old man telling you stories about guys from the 60s and 70s?
No, he's still he's still a big Phillies guy. So, you know, his claim to fame, you know, Mike, you had McGarry on just a few minutes ago, and he talked a little bit about Buddy Kennedy's grandfather. And my father's been friends with him for a little while now too. So we've had some interesting conversations over the years about baseball.
It's funny, whenever the Milwaukee Brewers wear those throwback uniforms, they call them the Don Money throwback uniforms.
You know, I like them. I don't mind the throwbacks, too much anymore. There was a time where I wasn't a big fan of all that, but you know, every now and then it's okay.
I was joking around with Tribble on Twitter. What do you think of this new fad of the striped shirts for the high school teams?
You know, I like some more than others. Some, you know, pop out. Some have a little bit more pop than others, but you know, it's a little different, and it's okay. You know, I don't mind it.
I'm not a big fan of that new look.
Yeah, I know, but you gotta. It's give and take, so you'll be all right. Sometimes it doesn't work too well with photographers with all those lines and all those stripes and stuff, but. You know, for the most part, well, if that's what makes the kids happy, that's fine.
It's kind of funny because when I was in high school, we had sort of a version of that at Lacey. We had gray jerseys with red and blue stripes across the front. Our uniforms were god awful. We had blue pants, red shoes. We looked like a circus out there. It was brutal.
Well, you know, a lot of things were kind of brutal back then.
Late 80s, man. Navy blue baseball pants. I was like, are you serious with these uniforms? Nowadays, man, you're a high school kid these days. You got like 3 or 4 uniforms. You got home, away. You got the alternate jersey.
Well, you know, these booster clubs are out there making some money for these schools, and and the kids are, dipping into their pockets and everything. It's certainly not coming out of the budgets of these schools to pay for extra uniforms. So if that's what they want to do with their money, that's fine with them. That's fine.
Kevin, real quick, what's your impression on the new pitch count rule? How much effect do you think that'll have on some of these South Jersey teams?
I think there's a lot of I think it's really going to have a major impact. A lot of people look at it, they're trying, still kind of maybe grasping the situation, kind of figuring out what it's going to do and all. But I think in the past, the teams that had pitching depth were always the teams you kind of looked at around tournament time, and I think pitching depth is obviously going to be huge this year with the way those rules are set up. You have a kid who has one bad inning. In all honesty, if a kid has one bad inning, it could affect the team for the rest of the week. With the way that the counts are broken down into how much rest you have to have. Depending on how many pitches you've thrown. But, I was at a scrimmage the other day, and I didn't keep count, but a kid, he must have thrown at least 40 pitches.
Wow.
Because he was getting knocked around a little bit. So, if a team has a big week, with the way this weather is set, with the way the spring is, and the way games get canceled, it could be a beautiful day on a Monday, but it poured on Sunday, so the fields are just too damp to play. So, games kind of get backlogged, and next thing you know, you're playing like 4 games in 5 days or so, and you've got to have some arms. So I think, obviously, coaches are going to have to they have to keep an eye on it anyway, because they're going to have to keep count every inning. But you've really going to have to manage your team extremely well this year, under these new pitching rules to really put your team in the best position to win. And I think, there's teams that may struggle with this, and there's other, you're going to see a lot of, I think what you're going to see is a lot of young, inexperienced arms at the varsity level really have to get out there, and they may not be ready for it, but you're going to have to step up because of the way these rules are.
Yeah, I think it's really going to affect some of the smaller enrollment schools, those Group 2s, Group 1s. A lot of times those teams only have maybe 30 kids in the entire program, varsity and JV, so that could really put a strain on some of those schools.
Yeah, I think this year, I think what you're going to see maybe this year is you're going to see your kids that are your pitchers, and then there's going to be those kids who are your throwers. And we may need some throwers out on the mound just to get us through some innings.
There's going to be a lot of that, I'm sure there was a lot of that this preseason. Coaches, coming up to a freshman or sophomore. Hey, you ever pitched before? You want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd read in a story involving Bishop Eustace, and Eustace probably has a few more arms than most teams, but you know what? It's like all hands on deck. If you can throw the ball and just get it over the plate and get us through an inning, we may just need you to get us through one inning. That could be the difference. So I think you're going to, like you said, I think you're going to find, especially with these teams that don't have as much depth overall as other teams, that these rules are really going to influence the way games are handled.
On the positive side, it's probably going to allow a lot more kids to get up to that varsity level a little quicker, like you said, and that's a big deal for a 15-year-old sophomore. Hey, getting that call from varsity, that's an exciting day when varsity coach tells you, second period, hey, we need you on the big club today.
Yeah, I think a lot of these younger kids, and I think more and more these kids are learning how to pitch at an earlier age, and they're developing a curveball. Some of them are developing a slider, but you're going to have these young kids that are going to get their opportunities, and they may get knocked around a little bit this year. This year may be a year where you take your lumps, but maybe a year from now, or when you become you go from a sophomore in 2 years to a senior, this experience will pay off. But I think, like I said, there are teams that will have depth and will deal with it much better than other teams.
We're talking with Kevin Minnick of the Courier-Post. Talking a little high school baseball. Kevin, should be an exciting year. I mean, when you look down the lineup of some of these teams, I mean, I was talking to Mike McGarry before you, and we were saying how making that Diamond Classic, man, that's going to be tougher than ever, particularly for those Cape Atlantic League teams. When you look at some of those teams over in your area, Cherokee, Gloucester Catholic, Eastern's got some all-state guys returning. Washington Township, Williamstown, Shawnee, even Highland's got a bunch of guys back from a team that did pretty well last year. So it's going to be some. You have to man up if you want to make some noise in a Diamond Classic or to state playoffs this year.
Yeah, I spoke with Mike a couple times in the last couple of days and stuff about. I mean, one of the top topics we talked about was just this, and I think it's my. I don't know if it's my opinion, and people can agree or disagree, but I think that there's more talented baseball teams as far as boys sports are concerned. I can't speak to the girls, but as far as boys sports in high school, there are more talented baseball teams out there, I think, than ever before. And, when you put together your top 10 or 15 or 20, you're putting together a list that you're leaving a lot of teams. You could be leaving a half a dozen to a dozen teams out that are good, and they belong in the conversation. And there's teams out there that have 2 and 3 and 4 really good kids. You go break down South Jersey baseball, and every team's got at least probably most of the upper echelon teams. I'd say, if you take South Jersey as a whole, close to 90 high schools, I'd say there's probably 45 to 50 of those schools that have college-bound kids playing. And it's not just pitchers, it's position players, it's kids that can hit, it's kids that can throw, it's kids that can play defense. I mean, I think there's just South Jersey baseball, I think, is extremely strong. And you mentioned the Diamond, when you look at South Jersey, take the state tournament out of the equation, and you just look at South Jersey, and and there are teams out there that still want to be the king of South Jersey. There's a lot of bragging rights and a lot of recognition and stuff on the line when that diamond comes around. And the way that the process is in selecting teams for the diamond, a lot of teams are left on the outside looking in because of the way it's set up, the automatic bids, and the fact that there's only 6 at-large bids. So, there's going to be some. I'll tell you right now, there's going to be some teams that are not going to be in the Diamond Classic that should probably that are going to be among the elite teams in South Jersey, just by the way the process is in narrowing down those 16 teams. But teams all over the place, and it's not just it starts in the northernest, the most northern part of the South Jersey section, and you work your way all the way down the shore. There's good quality kids playing baseball just about everywhere, and I think it's going to make for an extremely exciting season. Once this weather finally breaks and teams can kind of get into a groove, I think you're going to see some really good baseball.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the Cape Atlantic League trying to get into the Diamond Classic. You might have, of the larger enrollment schools, you might have 6, even 7 teams trying to get that one automatic spot.
You're going to. It's a foregone conclusion. You're going to. That side of the Cape, the larger schools, there's some very good baseball teams there. And you could say today, you look at those teams, you look at Millville, you look at St. Augustine, you look at Mainland, you look at EHT. There's 4 teams right there, and there's a real good chance that maybe only one gets in the Diamond. It's a possibility only one of those 4 teams makes it because of the quality of baseball in South Jersey. So, you look at it that way. You can look at the Olympic American. You can look at teams like you look at Washington Township. You look at Eastern. You look at Shawnee. You look at Lenape. There's 4 teams right there. Only one is going to get the automatic bid, and there's going to I don't know that all and Brook Cherokee in there. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are going to be very good teams that are not going to be playing, and there's going to be a lot of teams. I think, I don't know that this year there's going to be a team that goes, like a 22-3. I think teams may have a few more losses this year than in the past among the elite teams, only because they're playing. There's so many teams that are going to be having to play against each other, going to beat themselves up. So, at the end of the season, when the state tournament comes roll around, it'll take care of itself. The Diamond will eventually take care of itself. But, I think this is going to be a really exciting spring for baseball.
Talking with Kevin Minnick of the Courier-Post. Kevin, real quick, I don't know if you've seen this kid play. Outstanding player. His older brother is now playing professional baseball. Brad Dobzhansky at Delsey. He's really made a name for himself in the last 12 months or so, kind of gone from a relative unknown to now, he's in the top 50 Major League Baseball draft prospects for high schoolers in the top 100 overall. I mean, this kid, he's got the definitely got the genes. I mean, his brother was a big kid, a 2-time wrestling state champ, and so he's got that good genes going. And what do you expect out of this kid for his senior year? Brad is when Brad was a freshman, his brother Brian, who's now with the Cardinals organization, he's going to start the season in A-ball at Peoria. He was a senior, and Brad is not as big as his brother was. And the thing with Brad that just, to me, there's certain schools you hear certain names, and it's always like, you know exactly where that kid goes to school. You hear Dobzhansky, it's Delsey, and the first thing that pops into my head when I think of Dobzhansky is wrestling. And his brother was, like you said, 2-time state champion. Brad did not, not as fortunate in that way, but still a very accomplished wrestler in his own right. But, as far as baseball was concerned, last year, 4-3, a 1.5 ERA is pretty good. But, you're not really hearing the buzz of Brad Dobzhansky. You're hearing the buzz of Buddy Kennedy. You're hearing the buzz of Jack Herman. You're not really hearing anything about Brad Dobzhansky. I talked to Brad earlier in the week. Brad was not even going to play summer baseball. He wasn't even going to play travel ball. And then all of a sudden he makes a phone call or so. He talks to the coach of his brother, a travel program up in Wall. And all of a sudden, Brad's pitching in some elite tournaments, and he's doing very, very well. All of a sudden, bam, Brad Dobzhansky he's gone from being one of the ants in the anthill to being like the king on top
that if you step on the anthill, you're missing him. You're not even going to step on. You're going to step on every other ant but him. he is going to his stock is. It couldn't be any higher than it is right now. I think it probably, once the games start rolling and he's on the mound and he pitches in front of the scouts and kind of, gets his groove and gets himself going, he's going to be fine. But, he's one that just kind of, when I saw the list from Baseball America and I saw he was the 43rd prospect in the country for high school kids, and in the top 100 amongst all draft-eligible players. That's JCs, that's international kids, that's college kids. Brad Dobzhansky's on that list. I was like, man. So I think, he took full advantage of an opportunity to play in some showcase events, to pitch in the fall, and he even though he walks around the hall now, everybody he's like a little celebrity, where at the end of last school year, he may not even be playing in the summertime.
Right.
So I think that's a great story in its own right, and I think I wish him nothing but success. I think the scouts will be out to watch him. The scouts will be out to watch a lot of guys. And I think he's in for a real nice season.
Good stuff, Kevin. We got to let you go. Got to get to your boy Tribble. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, buddy.
Hey, you have a good weekend too. And hopefully next week when we talk, we've got some games under our belt.
Let's hope so, man. Appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks.
All right. Have a good weekend.
All right. That was Kevin Minnick of the Courier-Post.